The French and Indian War. The French and Indian War was a competition for land. France and England both were fighting for land in the New World. Remember, one of the effects of European exploration was the competition of land and getting land in the New World. You look at the map here, this orange area right here was the land claimed by the French. So they claimed land along the Ohio River, the Mississippi River, and then the Great Lakes. And you see this purple area here is British territories, and they claimed their land mostly on the East Coast, and that's where the 13 colonies were. And then you also have Florida and Texas that was claimed by Spain. The French and Indian War was also about the fur trade. The French, British, and Native Americans began trading fur. The French made their living trapping animals and making fur. So this was the way the French got money, were able to take care of their families, was trading the fur. And British traders started to move into the Ohio River Valley, and British land companies were planning to settle colonies there. So once the British realized how important and valuable the fur trade were, they started to move in and started to take over in this fur trading business. They also started negotiating with the Native Americans, and they will give them more things and accept less fur just to capitalize or build on this market. So with all of that going on, things start to get a little heated between the French and the British. The British did not treat the Native Americans nicely. They did not treat them like the French did. The French, because they were business partners, treated the Native Americans a little better. The British was basically trying to take over the land, and they were greedy. The French started to build forts to protect themselves from the British. So once the British started moving into the Ohio River Valley, the French was like, I don't know what this is about. Let me start building some forts to protect ourselves just in case, the British get a little crazy. So the Virginia colony sent a small group led by George Washington to tell the French, yo, you got to get out of here. I don't know what you're doing, but you got to go. The British then built a fort, and the French and the Native Americans seized it. It's like, we were here first. You're not taking over. We're going to take this fort. That was Fort Duquesne. The British, with the help of Washington again, built Fort Necessity, and the French and the Native Americans said, I told you, you cannot be here, and they took over that fort as well. Now, the actual war. The French and Indian War was from 1754 to 1763, and it's also known as the 7 Years' War. If you could add, that's more than 7 years. The tension started in 1754. All of the problems started in 1754, but the actual war did not start until 1756, in May of 1756, and it ended in February of 1763. This whole war was about gaining control over North America through land, through fur trade, just having the power and control over North America. The war, although it's called the French and Indian War, was a war between the British and the French. The Native Americans sided with the British and the French. Remember, I told you that the Native Americans were treated very badly by the British, and they were treated better by the French. Some areas, the British did treat the Native Americans okay, and then that's why they were on both sides, so they fought on both sides. The reason it's called the French and Indian War is because basically England or British were fighting against the French and the Indian. The Native Americans fought really hard during this war, so you have to keep in mind, although they were fighting on the side of the French and the British, it was basically their land, so they were trying to also protect their land as well. So in 1754, when all this tension started, Benjamin Franklin came up with this thing called the Albany Plan. And he basically said, hey, you know what, you guys, there's this problem going on with the French. They're trying to take over. Let's work together. And that's why we have this political cartoon up here that says join or die. and you have like the snake that's cut up with the colonies on it. So he's basically saying if we're separated, we'll die, but if we're together, we're better. So this was the first proposal or idea to unite the colonists. The colonial legislators said no to his Albany plan. They disagreed with Benjamin Franklin, and they did not want to come together at this time. All right, now the war is over. The war lasted for about 7 years. The Treaty of Paris of 1763 ended the war. France lost almost all control of land and power in North America. British claimed all land east of the Mississippi and Florida. So if you can see before, this was the map I showed you before. This was in 1754. So after the war, you have now England or the British owning all of this land. They even got Florida now. And then the green is by the Spanish territory. Where is the French? I see no orange here. The French got nothing out of this deal. Now, that's not all. The British also took over French forts, but refused to give any supplies to the natives. So once they started taking over these forts, they did not, say, you guys helped us with this war. We're not giving you anything. So the Native Americans got mad and they retaliated in what was called the Pontiac's War or Rebellion. Native Americans retaliated and attacked British forts in the Great Lake areas, and they were hoping basically to drive the British out of this area. The British was like, okay, we just fought in this French and Indian War. We don't want to go through this again, so let's meet. So they sat down with the leaders of the rebellion and gave them smallpox infected blankets as a peace offering. So the British was really sneaky and grimy. So they gave the people, the leaders of these tribes that were attacking them, disease-ridden blankets as a so-called peace offering. So don't cross this line. The British realized that after the Pontiac's War Rebellion, that they could not protect the colonists beyond the Appalachian Mountains. So you see here, these are the 13 colonies, and this red line here is the proclamation line of 1763. Again, you can see it over here as well, the 13 colonies, and then you have the Appalachian Mountains here. So you have the proclamation line of 1763. And basically the proclamation line said to the colonists, you cannot settle past this line. Do not cross this line, which is basically where the Appalachian Mountains ran, and also this imaginary line here. Do not cross this line. If you do, we basically will not protect you if you cross this line. This made the colonists angry. They're like, dude, we just fought in this war, and now you're telling me that we got this new land and we cannot cross over into this new land that we just fought for? Something's really, really wrong with this picture, and that really made the colonists angry that they just fought, they gained all this new land here, and now they can't cross over into that new land. So that really upset them. All right, cause and effects of the French and Indian War. So causes, money was the main reason for the French and Indian War. Power, they wanted control. The French and the British wanted control over the land in North America. Think about the location that they were fighting over, where the Ohio River, Mississippi River, all of these, you have transportation, you have access to water, you can do trade with the money, it's fur. So there was these real big reasons, 3 big reasons why, or the causes of the French and Indian War. Now the effects of this, after the war was over, England gained more land and power. France and Spain lose land and power, and the colonists learn how to fight. They came over here to settle. They fought in this war. They learned some military strategies and techniques. It was like a practice run for them. So they learned how to fight. But the biggest effect of all was war debt. Because of the French and Indian War, the colonists suffered financially, and they lost a lot of money, and they was in a big war debt. What I want you to think about is, why do you think the French and Indian War is often referred to as the war that made America? Think about all the things that happened, the result and the effects of the French and Indian War, and think about why people say this is the war that made America. Again, make sure you copy down the notes in your notebook, and we will discuss these things in next class.